friends, welcome to Summer Enrichment. Miss Karen here. Hi, most of you know who I am, right? We've met before, and some of you are going to be in my class next year, and I'm really excited. This is Summer Enrichment, and we're going to be reading a story once a week. We're going to be doing a cool craft that goes with the story, and Miss Tina is going to do science with you. It's going to be so much fun, and I hope you're ready for this. So today, to start off Summer Enrichment, we are starting with our story. And this story is called Jack and the Beanstalk. Have you ever heard of this story before? Well, let's look at the cover of the story and see what we know, what we can figure out about the story. That's one way we start a story. We look at the cover. What do you see on the cover? Yeah, so I'm thinking that this must be Jack and this must be the Beanstalk, right? And where are they going? Oh, he's going all the way up into the clouds, right? And what do you see in the clouds? A castle. What do you think's in that castle? Who do you think lives there? Can you guess who might live in that castle? Well, I think we're going to find out. But first I want to just tell you that this is a special story. This is a fairy tale. I know you know a lot of fairy tales. So a fairy tale is a story that it wasn't written down. Everybody just kept it in their head. They remembered it in their head and they retold it and retold it and retold it to their children and their children and their children. Okay? So it gets passed down from a long time ago, before there were even books in writing. They had it in their head and they would tell the stories. So every time you read it, it's retold by somebody else, right? So another thing about a fairy tale is they usually start with once upon a time, right? And it ends in, and they lived happily ever after. And most of the time, there's a magical, mythical creature in the story, and sometimes more than one, right? They fun creatures and animals that act like humans. So let's see if we can find out who is the magical, mythical creature in this story going to be. What do you think? Let's read Jack and the Beanstalk. Now, this is retold by a person. It's not the author, because this person didn't make this story up. It's an old story. But it's retold by Rona Randall and illustrated by Gavin Scott. Gavin Scott drew all the pictures. That's what the illustrator does. Once there was a boy named Jack who lived with his mother. They were very poor and had to sell their cow to get money for food. As he was taking the cow to market, Jack met an old man. "You won't get much money for such an old cow," he told Jack, "but I can give you something better than money for her. Magic beans." He held out his hand and showed Jack 5 speckled beans. Magic beans, thought Jack. They sound exciting. He gave the old man the cow and took the beans, thanking the man politely. Then he went home to his mother. How do you think his mother's going to feel about this? Let's look at her face. We don't even need to read the words yet. How does she feel? She looks a little angry. Jack's mother was extremely angry. "Silly boy," she shouted. "Thanks to you, we have no cow and no money." So she threw the beans right out the window and sent Jack to bed. Do you think it was a good choice of Jack to take the beans for the cow, or a poor choice? Not such a good choice, right? But let's find out what happened. Because something always happens, right? The next morning, Jack was astonished when he looked out of the window. A giant beanstalk had sprung up while he was sleeping, and it stretched way up to the sky. Jack ran outside, and he began to climb that beanstalk. Up, up, up he went, higher and higher, until he reached the top. There he found a road, which led to a really big house. Jack's tummy was rumbling with hunger, so he knocked on the large wooden door. A giant woman answered. She looked kind, and Jack asked if she would give him some breakfast. "You will be breakfast if my husband finds you," she told Jack. "He's much bigger than me, and he eats children." But Jack begged and pleaded, and at last the woman let him in. She gave him some bread and milk, and she hid him in the cupboard. A cupboard is like a little cabinet. Why is she hiding him? What did she say? Who's going to come? Uh-oh. Here he is. Soon Jack heard loud footsteps and felt the cupboard shake. The giant man was coming. Jack heard him roar.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Don't be silly, the giant's wife said. You just smell the sausages I've cooked for your breakfast. Now just sit down and eat. After wolfing down 3 plates of sausages, the giant asked his wife to bring him his gold. She brought 2 big sacks filled with gold coins, which the giant began to count. But he was so sleepy after his big breakfast, and he began to snore. Jack crept out of the cupboard and grabbed one of the sacks of gold. Then he rushed out of the house, along the road, and straight down that beanstalk. Jack took the gold. Jack's mother was overjoyed to see him, and she was even happier when she saw the gold. They lived well while the money lasted, but after a year, it had all been spent. Once again, Jack and his mother had nothing to eat. Don't worry, Mother, said Jack. I'll just go back up the beanstalk to the giant's house. And so he did. Just as before, Jack knocked on the door and begged the giant's wife for something to eat. Again, do you think that's a good choice or a poor choice? There's a big giant up there. I don't know. Let's see. What do you think he's going to get this time? Go away, she told him. The last time you were here, a sack of gold disappeared. My husband was very angry. But once again, Jack begged and pleaded, and at last she let him in. She gave him some bread and milk and hid him in the cupboard again. Soon the giant stomped in, bellowing,
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Nonsense, said the giant's wife. You smell the yummy soup I've made for your lunch. Peeping through a crack in the cupboard door, Jack saw the giant slurp down a big barrel full of soup, and he heard him tell his wife,
Bring me my hen.
A hen is a mommy chicken, right? She lays the eggs. She put a fat red hen on the table, and the giant shouted, Lay an egg! To Jack's amazement, the hen laid a golden egg. Jack waited until the giant was asleep. Then he jumped out, and what do you think he did? He snatched up the egg, and as fast as lightning, he dashed out of the house, along the road, and down the beanstalk. He didn't just take the egg, he also took the whole hen. Jack had not only taken the egg, he took the whole red hen down with him. Jack and his mother lived very well on the money they made from the hen's golden eggs. But Jack wanted to climb the beanstalk one last time. He knew the giant's wife would not let him in again. So when she wasn't looking, he sneaked into the house and he crawled into the cupboard. Before long, the giant came crashing in.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman.
He thundered. You smell the steaks I've cooked for your dinner, his wife said. And she put a platter of thick, juicy steaks in front of him. So now, the wife giant doesn't even know that Jack is there, right? He's hiding in the cupboard. After gobbling up the steaks, the giant took out a golden harp and he demanded the harp to sing. The harp played a gentle lullaby, and soon, of course, the giant fell asleep. Jack sprung out, took the harp, and he began to run. But the harp started yelling, Master! Master! And the giant woke up with a roar. He leapt and he ran right after Jack. Uh-oh. Holding the harp tightly, Jack ran for his life. As he scrambled down the beanstalk, he yelled, Mother! Mother! Bring the axe! Jack took the axe and started to chop down that beanstalk. The giant quickly climbed back up to the top before he snapped in two. That was the last time Jack saw him. With the hen and the harp, Jack and his mother were able to live happily ever after, and they were never hungry again. The end. Did the giant fall when the beanstalk got cut down? He ran right back up, right? So he did not fall. He's back up in the castle in the clouds with his wife. And Jack and his mom have the hen who lays the golden eggs that they can sell for money, and the harp that plays beautiful music, right? And I guess the giant will go back up and find other things because he's pretty happy up there, okay? So that's the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack and his mom lived happily ever after. And probably the giant and his wife did too. Okay, once that beanstalk was gone, the giant couldn't come back down. And Jack couldn't go back up, right? So, do you think that you know of any other fairy tales? You have to think about that. Think about other stories that have mystical, magical creatures. Who is the mystical, magical creature in Jack and the Beanstalk? Yep, that big old giant. Are giants real? No way. But in this story, in a fairy tale, giants are real. Okay? Can we say something about Jack? What could we learn? What did we learn about Jack? He just kept going up that beanstalk because he knew that his mom needed money. So he was kind of brave, right? We could say Jack was brave. But in a way, we wonder, is it okay that Jack stole all those things from the giant? Is that fair? I don't know if that's so fair, but it did help Jack and his mom. So in fairy tales, sometimes the main character does things that really, it's not really okay to steal, but in a fairy tale, because it's a made-up story, we can say that, well, the giant had all these things, and the giant was this mythical creature. So to have some of it, the giant still had his gold. The giant still had other things, you know. And do you think if that Jack said to the giant, "Hey, giant, I don't have any food to eat. My mom's hungry. I'm hungry. Can you give us some of your stuff?" Do you think the giant would have given it to him? That's a good question. I don't know. That may be another side to the story. Maybe we should find out what the giant was thinking in the story. I don't know. So after you have listened to this story, and I just wanted to go through what happened in the beginning of the story. Jack's mom was hungry. Jack was hungry. They had nothing to eat. So he went to market to sell his cow, and what did he get instead? Beans, but they were magical. And what happened when they threw those magical beans out the window? Do you know what happens when you put beans in soil and then it rains and the sun comes up? Something grows. What grew? A giant beanstalk. So when he went the first time, what did he get from the giant? He got a bag of gold, right? What did he get the second time? A hen that lays golden eggs. What? Yeah. And the third time, he took that beautiful golden harp, right? And how did the story end? What happened in the end? Yep, Jack chopped down that beanstalk, and the giant ran back up. And they all lived happily ever after. Okay, you're going to make a craft that's going to go with your science project. You're going to grow your own beanstalk. Do you think there's going to be a giant on top of that beanstalk when you grow it? How tall do you think it's going to get? I don't know. We're going to find out, because you have to plant it, and then you have to have patience and wait for it to germinate and grow into a beanstalk and reach the top of the castle, right? And you know what? You can have any creature you want living in your castle, because it's your story and your beanstalk and your castle in the clouds. So have a great time with science, and have a great time making your craft. And I'll see you on Zoom. Bye.